All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Theory and Theology. On this podcast we talk a lot about culture, theories, spirituality. So I'm not recording about toxic relationships at the moment. Last week I did quite a lot of content about that. I just don't think I posted it. But I kind of wanted to talk about experiences that are kind of like I wouldn't necessarily classify them as like aliens. Just like weird experiences that I can't really fully explain. But I don't know. I don't want to combine them all into the same episode. So I might just do like separate clips, and they might be long if my brain isn't really doing its thing. If I get a little distracted while I'm talking. I don't take notes on this stuff. Sometimes when I do the dream ones, I do take notes because I forget it. Even the dreams that I'm like, I'm definitely not going to forget this by the end of the day. Like, by the end of the day, I've like completely got full chunks of stuff missing. And so, one that comes to mind, I don't know if I ever recorded this, but about this, I don't know if it's the most recent one I can think of, but maybe it is. I feel like there's been stuff probably way more recent, honestly, but I feel like I also just kind of don't really talk about it or record about it, or I'm just like like it was like an interesting experience, and then I just kind of move on from things. So there was this time, I'm trying to see if I can figure out the time frame. I don't know exactly. It was within the last let me see. So I'm thinking of when I lived at the previous house. This last Easter in 2022 would have been 3 years at that house. Because I moved in 2019. So this didn't happen in 2019. Let me see. I'm trying to think. I think it was it was sometime between 2020 and April. I'm thinking when the other roommate moved out, it was April 2021. And then I'm thinking of the person who was sleeping on the couch, April of 2021. She wasn't sleeping on the couch. So it was actually after April of 2021. So sometime between April 2021 and I don't know. Sometime between April 2021 and definitely before May of 2022. So let's just call it 2021. I'm pretty sure it happened in 2021, but it might have been early 2022. I'm going by because I know the reason why is because I know it was when a certain housemate was sleeping in the living room and had a blow-up mattress in the living room. I specifically remember this because he was in the house at that time, but it wasn't him. So I was kind of like just kind of, well, basically with the event, like it wasn't like a very long thing. So I had been out, I don't know where I had been out at. I can guess at the friends I was out with, because if this was occurring in like 2021 during the pandemic, there's kind of one main group I hung out with in San Diego, and I didn't hang out with a whole lot of different people. So I'm pretty sure it was my main crew in San Diego that I was hanging with. We were out. I was Ubering home, I'm pretty sure. Sometimes when I would Uber, like when I would get an Uber home, it wouldn't be uncommon for me to just like go to my car and like, take a few hits off a joint or something. But I can't remember if I had been drinking at all. Maybe. I mean, depending where I would go with places, sometimes I would just Uber just to avoid, having to look for parking and having to pay for parking, depending where I was at. Like, it's not like there aren't free places to park, but sometimes I would just drive. So we went to hang out with some friends. I went to hang out with some friends, and I remember coming in to the house, and like I said, I don't remember if I had been vaping or smoking or had any edibles or had drinks. I don't remember specifically if I was sober or not. But I do remember being at least tired. And I was coming home late. The house was dark, so it must have been like people in that house didn't sleep too. Like I would say like maybe 10:30 people would sleep around 10:30 p.m. And like, I mean, people would still be up, but while this guy was in the living room, he used to sleep early. So I want to say it was by 10:30 p.m. he was already in bed, even on like weekends, I guess. And I would usually sleep early too, so I just remember that like he didn't like people having the lights on in the kitchen, which was weird because it was like, well, you're sleeping in the living room, and some people cook late at night in the house. So I remember coming home after an event, and this guy, basically I had this experience where I was just quietly coming in. The house was completely dark. We used to have like night lights, kind of like these like kind of dim LED night lights, kind of like in the kitchen, in the hall, in the bathroom. So it wasn't like pitch black, but you couldn't really like see. Like a lot of times I would need my phone camera to be able to see properly. And sometimes I'd have a little bit of a hard time getting in the door if the front light wasn't on. So I'd be like trying to get into the house. We had like a what do you call those doors? Like a screen door, like a metal screen, like a heavy metal screen door. That like if it banged up against something, it would be like pretty loud. And then we had a regular door, but both doors had doorknob and deadbolt locks. And so sometimes you'd have to unlock the screen, and you'd have to unlock the door, you know, like both, like all four locks. So it might have been one of those nights. I don't know. Like sometimes I would just come home, and I mean, there were times I would come home and nothing would be locked, and then there were times I'd come home and like everything would be locked, or like anything in between. And so I remember the doors, just trying to get through the doors. I don't remember if our porch light was on. If not, sometimes the moonlight was light enough to actually be able to get in, and there were like street lights a little bit, so like sometimes there was enough light to kind of see, but not always. So I don't remember how it was getting in. I just remember it was dark when I got in the house, and then I was locking behind me once I got in. So I would lock at least the deadbolts of the screen and the door itself. Otherwise, I would just leave it, like I didn't leave it unlocked, but I would lock it, I didn't always lock like all four locks, but I would lock like at least both of the deadbolts. And so I'd have the doors locked. And so I came in. I remember turning around, and the way the house is built, there's like when you come in, there's the living room, and the door is right on the corner of a wall. And so when you walk in, the hinges of the door would be pretty much touching the wall. Like if you were walking in, there's a wall on the right side, because that was like one of the walls of somebody's bedroom. If you would turn right past that wall, like just following along that wall. But if you were to walk straight, you would just go, like there was a couch, you would walk in front of the couch, and there was another wall that was like the bathroom wall. So basically, I don't know, it's hard to really describe, but there was an actual light switch there on that wall when you would walk forward. But that whole section in front of the couch, there were like two couches. So there would have been a couch to the left of the door along that front window wall that's like on the same side of the wall as the actual door, and then there would be one to the right. And like I said, you'd have to walk in front of the couch. So when you were walking in front of the couch, the foot of the bed, the blow-up mattress bed that the guy had put down, the foot of his bed was on the left. So there was like that path between the front of the couch and the foot of his bed, and then you'd like eventually, like you'd have to turn like at the end of that couch that was at the foot of his bed to go towards my room to the right, to down the hall. At the end of that hall was my room on the right. If you wouldn't have gone to the right, if you would have just passed that little wall, because the wall did kind of end, you would be at the bathroom that was near that wall, like at the end of the couch. And so I remember, locking the doors, walking in, just kind of slowly, I'd keep the lights off. I didn't turn on the porch lights. I wouldn't turn on the lights in the living room once I passed that little wall. On occasion, I would turn on the switch in the hallway so that I could, unlock my door. And then other days, if I felt like my eyes were like getting used to the dark, I would just walk in. So I remember I didn't have any lights. Walked in the house, locked the doors, was going to the right, and then I remember as I was like about to turn to the right, I saw like this green, it was like a neon green, like a neon green colored it wasn't like a person. It was like a neon green outline of a person almost, if that makes any sense. Like you've seen like light shows and laser shows and stuff like that. It was almost like a laser looking kind of thing, but it was kind of like more foggy. But I just remember it was neon green. There were no other colors. There was just a lot of neon green. But it was like the figure of that roommate who, had his bullet mattress in the bed, in the living room. And I wasn't sure if that was him. I didn't think it was him, but I wasn't sure if, he was actually at the house sleeping. I wouldn't, come in and turn on the lights and, check and see if he's, on his bed. It was, I just assumed everyone in the house was sleeping, likely, or maybe. So I would just try to come in as quietly as possible. And like I mentioned, it was dark. I didn't turn on any of the lights. So, anything that was not light, I wouldn't have been able to see it. If he was sitting up in his bed, I would probably not even have noticed. I mean, I'm not nosy like that, and I know that he's sleeping, and so I wasn't curious or even cared if he was home or not. But I remember, as I was turning towards my room, I saw this green thing go I don't know where it came from, but it was kind of I know it went into the bathroom. I can't remember if the bathroom door was open or closed, because sometimes we would keep it either open or closed. Sometimes we would keep it open or closed. So he was going into the bathroom, basically. That figure was going into the bathroom. And I remember not really being scared. I was just kind of because sometimes I would come straight home, and to avoid making too much noise, I would go straight into the bathroom to just clean up real quick and everything, instead of going into my room and then out of my room, then into the bathroom, because I'm well, if people are sleeping, I want to make the least amount of trips possible. So, I usually would go straight to the bathroom, brush my teeth, whatever. But, I didn't do that night, because I remember seeing that thing go into the bathroom. And I remember going to my room, and in my mind I was just thinking okay, somebody's using the bathroom. In my head, I don't know if it really clicked that it wasn't the actual roommate himself. It was something green that either resembled him, or that I thought was him, or I interpreted it to be him, but it didn't look like a person. It didn't look like him. It didn't look like the best I can describe it as is a laser outline of a person. That's the best I can describe it as. And it was definitely green, and there were definitely no other colors. It was all there were different not even shades. It was the same shade of green, mostly a laser outline that looked like a person, and then there was some kind of fuzzier, same exact color, no light green, dark green. It was all just the same exact color green, but some parts were crisper looking and some parts were fuzzy. But it wasn't eyes, nose, mouth. It wasn't like that. It was just that's the best I can describe it, is a laser resemblance of that guy who was sleeping in the living room during that time period. And so when I went into my room, I was just thinking, okay, here, he's in the bathroom. I just was thinking that he's in the bathroom, so I'll just wait a few minutes. And, the best way for me to figure out if somebody was in the bathroom, because usually when people weren't in the bathroom, they would leave the door open and the light would be off, because we only had one light switch and it had a fan. So we didn't keep it on when the door was open, unless you were like going from the bathroom back to your room to like grab a towel or something real quick, and then you come back, because, you keep it on because you're like holding your place in the bathroom or whatever. But it's like, if you're not in the bathroom, because the fan was like loud and like it's just like wasting energy, like we didn't really keep the door open with the fan on. There were a couple times where it would be closed with the fan on, and then like it would be like, okay, like most people don't take that long, so if it would still be like 20-30 minutes and the door's still shut, I'd usually just be like, there's nobody in there. When it's open, obviously you can see, but the light would be off. So yeah, so like I said, I saw the green thing, whatever it was. It didn't scare me or anything. I was just like, oh, like he's going into the bathroom. That's all I remember saying to myself, is like, okay, the bathroom's occupied. So I went into my room, waited there for a while, and then when I like looked, I kind of waited probably 10-15 minutes. Didn't really hear anything. There was no like noise, no nothing, no sound. And that house was usually very, very, very echoey. Like you could hear through the walls, you could hear people walking, you could hear like everything. Like if somebody was up and around the house, you would usually be able to hear it. If you were being quiet, at least you could hear that somebody was up and out and around. So I remember, I was just in my room, and I would usually give it like 15 minutes, because that was usually about the max amount of time people would spend in the bathroom, like 15, maybe 20 minutes max. And that's like if they were like showering or something. Like people didn't usually spend that long in there unless they were like cleaning. Maybe they would take a really long time because the floors were drying, and sometimes people would just like be in there at the same time. They'd take maybe like an hour or so, but it's like that was like only if they were like cleaning. And there were like 4 of us using this bathroom. So, we all kind of had our schedules that we kind of just, because we were working and stuff. And so the only unpredictable, there were 2 people that were unpredictable, I guess. The wild lady that lived there, and then this guy, when he lived there at the same time that she had the bedroom. When he was in the living room, he was kind of like, I never really got his schedule down. I don't know if he was consistently going to work or not. Like sometimes I'd wake up and he'd usually be gone at first. He would be gone like every morning before I even needed the shower at like 7 something. And then he would, at a certain point in time, he was just like, he'd still be asleep when I was leaving at like 8 something. And then I remember one day I woke up, I got up to go and like get in the shower, and he was in there maybe like 15, like 5 minutes into, so I just kind of waited in the living room, like, and he came out, to get his clothes or whatever. And I was like, hey, how much longer? He was like, maybe 15 minutes. So I was like, all right. 'Cause usually I would get ready at that time of day. And like, so he was the only one that was kind of like a wild card. But otherwise, late at night, that other weird person would be doing whatever. But I feel like during the daytime, we pretty much all had our own, we kind of had our own schedule. So used the bathroom and stuff according to like what our own schedules were like. And so it was pretty predictable when somebody would be in the bathroom. But like I was saying, like, nighttime was like probably the main time that was like, I would be the only one usually going out on weekends and stuff. Like the other guys didn't really like have like a social life like that, going out on the weekends and stuff. So I would go out and come home late. And I remember going out and came home late. And yeah, this experience happened. So that's kind of like how the bathroom schedule, it wasn't like a set schedule, but like how the like routines would go with the bathroom. And so it wasn't very common that somebody would be around, up and around, but like at night. But there was that one lady who was kind of like up and out and about and like doing whatever, like whenever the heck. When she would have her episode, she'd just be like doing God only knows what. But I didn't hear her, I didn't hear that, I didn't hear anything. I just remember like about 15 minutes later, I was probably like on YouTube or something, and then like 15 minutes later I just opened my door and looked down the hall to see, that the bathroom door was open. Lights were off, it was dark. But like I said, there was like that little bitty like night light in there. It wasn't green, it was like pinkish or some other kind of color. And yeah, whatever that green figure thing was, it moved at least 3 or 4 feet. And it was kind of more like a combination of me like recognizing the resemblance as well as me just kind of knowing how to interpret it. And so I remember that strange experience, just interpreting what I was witnessing as, somebody going into the bathroom. And in my head, I was like, it's that housemate, but I also knew that it was green. I also knew, like, other than it resembling him, like, he's like the normal human person to my knowledge, but I don't know, maybe he wasn't. I mean, he did kind of have like an interesting kind of way about him. I mean, I found out just because when people will talk, you could just overhear every single conversation. So when the guy who would collect our checks was talking to one lady about that guy who would sleep on the living room mattress, or on a mattress that he put in the living room, there was some tension between that old man and him, and somebody mentioned something about like, him having trouble getting the rent or something, and there was like some other issue with how he was reacting or behaving. Like, I overheard that guy arguing with with the older lady once. She was trying to kind of tell him what he needs to kind of do for his life, and he was kind of like not trying to hear it. And she was kind of like, okay, like, you don't really want to listen. And like, he was like, yeah, like, and like, you could kind of tell they weren't really on the same page. She seemed to not like talking to him. The old man seemed to not like talking to him. And then they kind of got into it. And then one of the other roommates, who would come home and like, cook late, there was some tension between the two of them to a certain extent. And then I don't know, there were some knives that went missing, or a knife or something. And I remember that roommate who came home late was saying like, somebody stole something from him, and it was that knife or something. So there was like tension between him and that guy. And then they did get in an argument that I remember, but that guy wasn't there for too long. Maybe a couple months, 2-3 months or something. It wasn't that long at all. Maybe not even 2 or 3 months. Maybe it was like 2 months. I don't know. I feel like it wasn't that long at all. But he did have a good schedule at first that was very predictable. And then I do remember him, I overheard once when he was like calling in late for work, and then somebody else, like, it was like on speaker, I guess, and because I could hear the other person being like, oh, again, like you're gonna be late again. And then the roommate guy being like, I'm not really usually late. And he's like, yeah, you're late all the time, like, you're never here, like on time, like you're hours late, like multiple times a week. I don't know if he kept that job or lost that job at what, but I do remember that from the time he moved in, when he was leaving, before I would get up to shower and get ready, when he was leaving early, yeah, that changed, and then he started leaving later, and then it changed to him being sleeping like a lot of different times of the day, and then it changed into him almost never being at the house or coming in at like really weird hours, and then like leaving, like showering and leaving. But yeah, it was a weird experience with that guy in the first place, and I'm not sure what that bathroom green thing was all about. Like, I couldn't even hardly remember that housemate's name. So, and I wasn't like attached to him. I'm always friendly, so I'll have like maybe one conversation at first, like introducing myself and like, hey, like, where are you moving from? Like, where were you raised? Like, how, like, kind of just trying to get a vibe for like what's their role there. Like, are they just staying to save money, or do they work, or are they like just kind of like what's their deal at the moment, and just kind of explaining how long I've been there and stuff. And like, I usually like tell people if they need any good food recommendations from around or whatever. But otherwise I was never really getting involved. But me and him have like no bad experiences. Just the only bad experience I would say is that I would overhear the tension. I don't think he had tension with that lady who was acting wild all the time. To my knowledge, there was no tension between the two of them. I don't even remember if she was reacting like that back then, or I just don't know at all. So there was no tension. And then between me and him, or that wild lady and him, at least to my knowledge. But there was tension between wait, I have to be getting this. So that wild lady wouldn't have been there yet, actually. That wild lady wouldn't have been there yet, because the bedroom was taken by that other housemate, the one that would come in late from work. So no, I'm wrong. That wild lady hadn't moved in yet. She moved in, I guess, after him, and was couch surfing. But he wasn't sleeping on the actual couch. Like, we'd had multiple people couch surfing, not at the same time, but just back to back, just for very short periods of time. And yeah, we'd have multiple people couch surfing, and he would just yeah, that's basically the best I can describe it. Like, multiple people would couch surf, and he was, instead of couch surfing, he had like a bed of his own set up. So that's the best way I can describe that, and my relationship with him that just basically didn't exist. Like I mentioned, I forgot his name at one point. We never really talked. I would maybe say hi to him if he seemed like he wasn't watching TV or something, or if he like looked up in my direction when I was like coming into a door. But yeah, like, as far as I know, that guy was just in the house for whatever reasons. And from what I overheard, there was some issue with the rent, and maybe his attitude towards the two older people. And then he did get in an argument at least 2 or 3 times with that guy who would come in late. And they did get in a pretty heated argument at least once that I recall. And so Yeah, that's kind of the best I can describe that experience. Like, it wasn't anything too significant, but it wasn't someone I ever knew before. It's not somebody I ever even exchanged contact info with. I don't even know if this was him or something else, or why I was thinking it was him, or why I was not concerned by it. I think it hit me later that I was like, wait, that was a little weird that I saw that green thing and I was like, oh, this is so and so. Like, because usually it's like when you see something weird, you're like, this is not something I normally see. But somehow my mind made the connection that what I was seeing was that guy. And it wasn't even like something I was like challenging at all in the moment. It was just like, the only thing I remember thinking was, okay, I'll wait about 15 minutes from inside my room. And when I did, look back out, the bathroom was free. I don't remember if I even looked to see if that other guy was sleeping in the living room or not. Like I mentioned, when I would walk in, I would just walk in. I wouldn't like see who was there, and it was dark anyways. And I mean, the house was so small, I was comfortable walking around. Like, the length of the wall was like our bedrooms were like about 10 feet wide or something. Maybe about 10 by 10-ish. I don't know, maybe smaller. Because my room in LA is like 10 by 11, and that's pretty small. And that room was smaller than my LA room. So, let me see. Probably about the wow, must have been, let me see if that's a foot. 3 feet. Wow, so that room was maybe like 7 or 8 feet wide. So, because I know it was like a full bed. To the left of the full bed was a yoga mat, and then to the right of the full bed was a... Sorry, no, there wasn't a yoga mat to the left. It was just a full bed up against the closet, and to the right was a little table. And yeah, my yoga mat was at the foot of my bed. So, let me see. So yeah, the length was basically head to foot, with the yoga mat at the end for a full bed size. So that's not very long. And then the width was about the width of the full bed, with maybe 3 feet to the right side. So yeah, really not a big bedroom at all. But yeah, I remember, so that house was small. I didn't really need the lights on. You could kind of feel your way around too, because it was like such a small place. It's like, okay, I'm in the hall, I'm passing this door, and then the next door is mine. And so it's like, I didn't really need lights. Nobody kept stuff in the walking path areas or anything really. So yeah, but that experience was weird, because mostly for me, one thing that was weird is just kind of how I associated what was happening with that guy. That to me was really odd. And that it resembled or looked like that guy, at least in my mind. But when I think of it, there was no like actual like clothing, facial features. And I didn't know this guy like so well, but there was something that was tipping me off to recognize what I was seeing as him. But then I wasn't afraid of it. I was just like, oh, that's weird that it's like green, like, and I'm just like witnessing this like green thing. And just how I just like 15 minutes later, like, look, bathroom door was open, bathroom was available. I went in, and I wasn't like afraid to go in there. I wasn't like curious or anything. Like, it was just kind of like matter of fact. That to me is kind of strange, because Usually when I have like some kind of experience where I like think I see something or like think something's going on, I get a little like the heightened, like, what was that? Like, there was none of that. It was just, it would have been almost as if I would have just seen like any old person that I lived with walking around when I came home. I would have just not been fazed by it because I knew the people. But it was interesting. But like I said, I didn't hear anything. So when I saw this green, whatever it was, I was like, oh, that's so-and-so going into the bathroom. But it's not like I saw the bathroom door open or close. I don't remember if it was open or closed. I don't remember anything about it. I just saw whatever it was go that direction, and it was like multiple feet, like at least 4 feet or so. It moved. It wasn't like standing or anything. It just kind of like appeared and went in there. And it was actually coming from like around the corner into there. It wasn't like just like straight in front of my vision. Like I would have passed it, I guess. Like I would have gone in, and to go right to my room, I would have like passed by it, like, and I didn't see anything in there, like, because the lights were off, so just to have like a neon green thing and then not be like afraid or concerned or worried or fazed by it at all, that to me is kind of like almost more interesting than what I actually saw. But I don't really know, because like it wasn't like a fully normal visual experience, like, especially because there were no other senses with it. So like, to me, that's not normal to see something that's moving that you can't hear, especially in that house. That was not like a normal thing. Like if I was walking and I was walking up to the door, people would know. If I was coming in the door, people would know. If I'm closing the doors, people would know. If I'm coming across the living room or the hall or in or out of my room, people would hear that. If I was going in or out of the bathroom, people would hear that. Like, people hear everything in that house, like I said. And so when I think of it, it's interesting that like I saw it with my eyes, that there was a thing that was moving. It was green, like a neon green too. It wasn't even like I saw something that was wearing green or like the color of green. It was like a light, like a green laser, like not a light like that illuminates, like for you to actually be able to see off of the beams of it to like illuminate part of the room. It was still very dark. It was just like a laser. You know how you can still see a laser at night, but it's not necessarily like providing like a source of light for you. So it was like that, and I don't remember any doors being like opened or closed. I just remember it going in there to the bathroom, and that I knew it was that guy. So I don't know, there was like some kind of a sense I had about it, but it's not like something I understood. But I did also kind of like act like I understood it, like, which was weird, because that's not like I'm a very like kind of like paranoid person. There's no way, like, if I saw something like that, I would never if I saw something like that, well, I say this though, but that's an experience where this didn't happen. So, but yeah, I would just assume, because every time when I think I see or hear something, I get a little like spooked by it. And so yeah, I'm not too clear on what that was. I don't know how close I was to it, but like I said, those rooms aren't big, and so it would have been less than 14 feet away on one hall, or if it was like from because it came around the corner, so like if it was from when I was coming into the door, it would have been maybe like the width of like a couch distance away, so not that far. But I also was like getting into the house and locking the doors and stuff. Like I wasn't like fully like looking to see something, but I did see something before I went into my actual bedroom. But I didn't hear anything. I just saw it and knew what it was, and that it was in the bathroom. I didn't hear anything in there. I don't think I saw the lights. There were no lights anywhere else in the house other than, like I mentioned, those little kind of night lights that we would have around. And there weren't a lot. Like, it's not like they were everywhere where I could have like looked at a certain angle or something and seen like thought that I saw light moving like that. Like it wasn't like that at all. Like I saw it move from around. It came from around the corner where that light switch would have been in the living room that I was mentioning, that would have been on that wall, and that's like in front. If you keep going just straight in that living room, that's basically where it came from. But I did pass that direction and didn't see anything. But like I mentioned, like I wasn't like looking around when I would walk in. I would kind of just walk in and try to go to the bathroom or to my room. I was more focused on trying not to make too much noise. So I know I wasn't making a lot of noise, but there was still, I would come in with my shoes on, because like people didn't really clean the floors in a way where I would take off my shoes in other parts of the house. Like I would always have my shoes on, because I realized if I walked in the kitchen or the bathroom, sometimes it would be wet. Or if I walked around like the living room or the dining area, like, like the floors weren't like mopped and like cleaned too thoroughly. And there was always a lot of foot traffic too. So there was always like a little bit of outside dirt. And then the lady had her dog and stuff. And so like she would walk it in and out of the house, and like, I mean, it wasn't like the dirtiest of dirty, you know what I mean? Like, but if you would walk around with white socks on, if you would go from your room to the kitchen, back to your room, your socks wouldn't be like clean. And I'm kind of like big on having clean socks. Like, I don't know, it's kind of like a weird thing, but like, I like my socks to stay the color that they are. I don't like them to have like, I don't like white socks with like really dark, like gross looking kind of like stained feet. Like, to me, that's kind of a little gross. Even if they're clean, it's like, it just doesn't appeal to me. It just kind of grosses me out a little bit. Just because that, like, they were dirty socks. Even if they're not, like, dirty at the moment, it's like, those socks aren't clean. They're not, like, fully clean socks. And so, yeah, I would get a little grossed out by the socks or whatever. And just, like, the feet kind of thing. Like, I don't know, like, there's something with like feet that gets like weird sometimes, but I mean, yeah, so I don't really, I wasn't really like walking around without my shoes on. And so, yeah, when I would walk, it would always be loud because I would have like hiking shoes I would wear, and they had like pretty heavy soles. And I didn't wear slippers either. But when I was in my own room, I would always take off my shoes because I was like I mentioned, it's such a small room. My bed was like on the ground, and so it's like I would walk around just like without my shoes on. I'd leave my shoes by the door, and just I would never ever ever have my shoes on inside of my bedroom. And so yeah, that's kind of how I did things. I just had kind of my own way of doing things there. But it's just kind of a weird experience. Like, I've never really had an experience like that, and that's why I say like I can't say like aliens. Like, it was like not necessarily like an alien thing. Like, in my head, it was like I knew who it was. I've never had that experience about anybody, like, where I'm like, oh, like, yeah, there's this light that's this person, like, and it wasn't even, like, light. It wasn't, like, a shining beam of light. It was, like, green laser-looking colors. not even moving laser. Like, there wasn't like a line of like one end of the laser going all the way to the other end. It wasn't like a line of a laser. It was like a shape figure of a person. But when I think back to that, I can't make out exactly what that figure looked like. Like, when I'm saying, yes, it was a figure, what did it look like? It resembled that guy who had the blow-up mattress in the living room. But I don't know how it resembled him. Like, I don't know his style. The only thing I remember is that he wore Ethika underwear because he would always have them on. And he would have them, like, out. And, like, because he was sleeping in the living room, and he would have his, like, clothes, like, out, like, in a certain, like, open space, where he would, like, fold up his clothes. But he would always fold his underwear and put them, like, on top of where he would put his clothes. And so I just knew that because, like, I wasn't, like, being nosy, but it's like, dude, it's, like, in the hallway. Like, I could see it out in the open. Like, so I just noticed it. But yeah, if I saw him on the street even today, I could not tell you what he looked like. I wouldn't remember how he looked. I remember his race, Caucasian guy. He was kind of short in stature. I remember what kind of car he drove. I don't remember his haircut. He didn't wear glasses. I don't remember what style clothing he wore. Nothing. And so it's kind of like, I just don't know. I don't know. Like, I've never had an experience like that before. And especially with the color and no other sound. And just knowing that, okay, it was him going into the bathroom, and I had to wait for the bathroom because it was just one bathroom. So, like, yeah, like, that's weird, right? It's like a weird experience. I wasn't scared. I just kind of knew the situation that was going on. And I just followed my normal path of doing things of, like, okay, like, usually I would hear somebody leave the bathroom, but if I didn't, I would check every 15 minutes. And so, like, because usually people didn't take longer than 15 minutes. And so, and if someone else had been waiting, usually you would hear them, walk down the hall into the bathroom. You would hear when the door would open or close. You could hear when the fan was on inside the bathroom when somebody had the light on. And when someone had the light on, the fan had to come on with it. So, like, unless you were in the bathroom in the dark. And that bathroom wasn't super dark, like I mentioned. There was a little, like, plug-in light in one of the outlets. And then the hallway had one, and then there was one, like, kind of in the kitchen. So you could kind of see in the very, very dark places, you could kind of see a little bit. Like, it wasn't pitch black, but it wasn't, like, bright either. Like I mentioned, it was dim enough. It was light enough that you could usually just see without having to turn on a light or use your iPhone light or whatever, your cell phone light. But sometimes I would use the light if I just wanted to just make sure I was, like, not making too much noise and, like, bumping into stuff or, like, whatever. Like, but that day I didn't have my cell phone light on, and I saw that green thing. Like, I don't know what that experience was. That was really weird. It was really weird to me that I sensed what it was. One of my previous roommates always sends me stuff about telepathy, and I was like, and let me see. So telepathy, and I was also noticing that when I record my dreams, there is a lot of this, like, in dreams. That's the only experience that I can say is, like, maybe equivalent, where it's like in the dream there's something happening where I understand what's happening, even if that's not really what's happening, or, like, there's some part of the story or the theme that, like, I just have an understanding of, even if that's not what is actually happening. Like, I do usually realize that. But I, like, in my real life, I don't think that kind of experience happens as often, where I'm just, like, I just like know what's going on even if nobody like said anything. The only time I would say that I have like any kind of, so outside of like the five senses, not the only. So there are other kind of things that I would say are, I don't know if they would be considered senses, but kind of like being able to kind of like attune to people, I guess is what it would be called. Like having a certain level of attunement. To me, yeah, dude, like to me that attunement is like not really a full sense, but it's like an unspoken understanding of what's happening. And I notice in a work environment when I'm doing like clinical work, that's kind of the only place where that happens. Or if I'm around somebody who's like, I wouldn't say they're like suffering necessarily, but I don't know, my mind doesn't really tune into things like that unless it's like some form of like, maybe like a person suffering. I don't know, that's probably the best I can describe it. But it's like, if I focus on it, I can kind of tell, like not just by just like looking at a person, but like talking to them, especially if I'm kind of assigned to be helping them, not just like family and friends, like venting about stuff or whatever they're explaining about what's going on. I wouldn't say that my mind really goes there, but my mind kind of goes there with clients and kind of just other times, like when I'm just like around town in the city somewhere and like there's a homeless person or somebody who's like, there's a homeless person or maybe somebody I don't know that just like approaches me and starts like talking to me out of the blue, like not really in stores, but maybe when I'm like, maybe say for example, if I'm gonna meet somebody right at like a restaurant or something, and you know how there's those store side kind of like restaurants where it's like not necessarily in a plaza where you have to drive into a parking lot, park, and then there's like, shops and restaurants and stores and stuff surrounding the parking lot. Not like that, like more so the, like if there's like a street, but it can happen that way too. But like if it's like a restaurant where I'm like there to meet friends and then I'm or to meet someone and I'm like waiting outside the restaurant. Like sometimes I'll wait outside if I know the person's like looking for parking or something. If they're like right there, usually I'll wait like outside. So I would be like waiting outside and then like somebody just randomly comes up and starts talking. Like maybe someone else waiting to get into the restaurant, or like if I'm waiting for an Uber or something and then like there's like a homeless person that's just like talking to me. Like sometimes that kind of experience, like where it's like I'll kind of tune into people in those kind of experiences, like when it's like a brand new person that's just like deciding out of the blue to just talk to me. And especially because almost all the time I need to like pay more attention to what percentage. I would say almost all the time when those people approach in a very very limited time frame, like literally, like I said, if I'm waiting for like an Uber and it's like 7 minutes and I'm just like talking to some person who like lives on like a bench or something, and we just, they strike up a conversation, and it's not usually people talking about their suffering. It's not really like that, but it's almost always somebody saying something that's just like really like kind of out there. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's always just like something that makes me think. It's never like, oh, like how's the weather? It's almost always something like pretty deep and profound. Like I don't know, it could be like some random fact about like how condors feed their babies or something. Like, I don't know, like some like random thing. Like, I don't know, like yeah, I really don't know. Just like something just kind of odd, like, and not really so much like condors feeding their babies. Like, usually it's not something like super abstract or like outward. Usually it's somebody saying something like pretty deep and profound about either something in their life, either something that they're doing right now, or something that, you know, they have coming up, or something that happened to them in their lives or something. And I don't know why it is, but like, I mean, this doesn't happen like every single day I go out, but it's like enough that is like, why do people just like approach me out of the middle of nowhere and just like say stuff? But it's always within a small amount of time. It's always within an amount of time that I am waiting for something else. But we kind of usually go back and forth talking about whatever that topic is that they bring up. And like, usually I'm holding a conversation with random strangers about some thing that they decided to approach me about, and we're just kind of vibing on whatever that topic is that they bring up. And I'm not like doing any kind of therapy or whatever, but you know, I do find it odd. But those are the only types of experiences that I would say, outside of dreams and outside of, you know, clinical work, where I'm kind of like purposely kind of like accessing that ability to kind of like tune in to people. Like, I'm not reading them. I'm not like interpreting anything. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's kind of like I'm just like zoned in, just kind of like absorbing, if that makes sense. And just like, I don't know if I'm trying to like connect to them, but I get a sense that like usually the connection is good. Because I've never had anybody like lash out and just be like, ah, like that's not what I meant about the condors, or like whatever. Like, they never like flip and just like decide to like lash out. Like, usually it's like pleasant and we're just conversing, but usually it is like really random stuff. It's not like like it happened the other day. It happened just on it happened the other day. It happened I was at the extended stay in San Diego, the one on Carroll Canyon, and I was coming back from my friend's house on Friday night. It was like probably 11:15ish p.m., maybe 11:30 p.m. And I knew I was checking out the next morning, and so, you know, I had a backpack on me that I was like, you know, let me put this in the car before I go up to my room, you know, because so I'm gonna put this in my car and then go up to my room, because that will be like, if I carry it up to my room, it's gonna be like one extra thing that I'm gonna have to like carry, because I was trying to make it just like one trip, just one trip. Like, when I'm checking out of a hotel, I don't like to have to make multiple trips. If it, you know, sometimes I don't mind, but I don't like to have to do that because I feel like I might forget something. So I like to just know that I've searched the room thoroughly and that I have one more trip to the car when I'm checking out. And so when the Uber dropped me off, the Uber was talking about being in like, he had started driving that night, and he was asking where I'm from, and I was saying that I'm from like from LA mostly, but live in San Diego, but work in San Diego, and was in town for sometimes come to town for work reasons, but kind of haven't been living locally lately, over at least through summer and now fall. And we were talking about LA and San Diego, and then he was saying he was from North Hollywood, and I'm kind of like, all right. And like, he was saying how, like, surprisingly that night, like, all his rides have been good, and that usually that's not the case. So he was saying, like, he was just grateful that everyone he's driven so far was cool that night. This was Friday night. And then I have my backpack with me, and so I was like, okay, what do I need out of the backpack? I was like, I'm gonna take my wallet, my keys, of course, my room key. I think I took my vape pen, and then I buried the backpack kind of in the back of my like in the hatch of my car, like past the back seat. Like, I kind of like put it in through the back seat, and there's this guy who was outside just kind of hanging out. And it wasn't sketchy, like it's like a parking lot of a hotel, so like he was just like kind of roaming. I could kind of see him just like just to kind of be out and like getting fresh air, you can kind of tell. And he so the Uber dropped me off at what I thought was the back door where I would park, because I parked right by the back door. So that's where the Uber was dropping me off. And then I realized that was the side door, and so I had him drop me. I walked around to the back door. So I was coming from around the back of the building and putting my bag in my car, but as I was doing it, the guy who was there, like, I saw him, but like I was just, you see people you don't really engage. I didn't really engage him in conversation. He engaged me in conversation. And he, I was putting my stuff in the back of my car, and so he saw the back of my t-shirt. I have this tie-dye t-shirt that says like skull heads or something like that, and it's like from Taos, New Mexico. If you go to the peak of the resort there, the ski resort in Taos, it says Ridge Heads. I think it says Ridge Heads, and it has like a picture of a skull. And you can only get it at the top of the mountain. And so back then they were like $20 for one shirt. So it's an extra large shirt because that's all they had. And then me and my friend both got one. And so I don't really wear it like out that much, but I wear it when I'm just kind of lounging with friends and stuff, because it's comfy. And so I had that shirt on, and this guy kind of comes up from behind me, and he's like like I mentioned, not in a creepy way. I saw him. I walked past him when I was in the parking lot, and he was at a distance, and he was kind of like, hey, what does that mean? Like, what he saw on the back of my shirt. And I was like, oh yeah, like Taos, New Mexico. And like, I remember mentioning like, oh yeah, I got it when I went snowboarding, and he was just like, oh, I've never been. And he's like, yeah, New Mexico's like really hot. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I remember mentioning snowboarding, like, and he was like, he just didn't seem to absorb the information. Like, I don't know if he'd been drinking or what, but he was just hanging out in the parking lot. And then, I'm putting my stuff in my car. And he's just like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, because I was like, okay, like, he's gonna keep talking, like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from LA, but I'm here for, like, whatever, other, like, I was like, I had plans down here, so I came down here, or whatever. I don't remember what I said, but he was like, when I said LA, he was like, oh, like, kind of like assuming, like, oh, you're not from somewhere far, you know, like you're from like right there, kind of like that was the expression he made. Didn't say the words, but that was kind of the expression he made when I was like, oh, I'm from LA. He's like, oh, you know, like kind of like, oh yeah, just from right over there in LA, like it's not far from San Diego. And then he never mentioned where he was from. I didn't ask. I was just making sure I had my car keys and wasn't like locking my keys in the car and like trying to like focus on that. But then he started saying him and his mom, he was there at the extended stay with his mom because they were, you know, transitioning to their next place or something. And I was like, oh yeah, like good luck with that. And I you know, I kind of wanted to ask him more questions, but I was like, it's late. Like I already wanted to be in bed by 10:30. It's after 11 already. And so, you know, I take my vape and you know, he's just kind of walking around. He's not like pacing or anything. He's just kind of, you know, you're just kind of walking. So he was kind of walking, but kind of talking because I was like the only one out there. And, you know, I go over to the other side I'm like vaping, and he kind of like walks away at that point. But I was like, yeah, good luck with everything, and like I hope it goes well for you, kind of thing. But yeah, I just got this sense like he's trying to be friendly, you know. And so I wasn't like engaging with him other than him talking to me. But I felt like if it wasn't late at night, if I wasn't tired, if I was gonna be there longer, I probably would have encountered him more often, and we kind of would have talked. And he was a little bit odd, but he wasn't being annoying. Like he wasn't like standing too, like I was kind of thinking like, oh no, he's gonna be annoying and I'm gonna be like stuck out here talking to this random guy. But yeah, I'm saying all that to say that like that was the most recent experience I had where it was like, yeah, I'm basically like making a decision that I don't have to make. Like I didn't have to put the stuff in my car at that time. Like I could have just gone straight from the Uber, gone straight upstairs to my room and just gone on with my night. But, you know, instead I decided to, you know, stop by my car. And then when that guy was talking to me, I was like answering his questions. And, I was like, that was cool, you know, that he asked me about the shirt. Like, not that many, I don't wear it that much, but not that many people ask me about what it is. He's pretty cool. He seemed pretty cool, but not, like, you could tell that he would be maybe, like, considered to have a nerdy personality, kind of like a not so sociably kind of like cool type of guy. But that usually to me is the kind of people that I kind of prefer to talk to, especially when they're complete strangers. It's kind of hit or miss. Like usually it's like, oh, sometimes they get really annoying and you're just like, oh my gosh, like how much longer do I have to be talking to this person? But usually I find those types of interactions to be a little interesting. But stuff like that, like like he was saying like how he was moving. He wasn't like holding me too long. I wasn't like waiting forever, and he wasn't like getting too like physically close or nothing. Like he was just curious and just talking about what he's up to. He wasn't doing anything creepy. Didn't sound creepy. He wasn't like roaming the parking lot like in a creepy way. It didn't seem. I think he was just out there just because he's sharing a room with his mother, and he's like, you know, he was at least in his 20s. And so I'm like, yeah, if you're sharing a room with your mom, you probably are not trying to be in there all day with your mom. You probably need your space, and you don't really have space, so you're just going to be outdoors. Because it's a hotel, like, where else are you going to go? So, yeah, like, things like that. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, that would be a little interesting of a transitional experience. You know, I start getting curious. Like, I didn't ask any questions really, but I was kind of like wondering, like, where's this guy from? Where's he coming here from? I mean, where, you know, where are they transitioning to? Where are they transitioning from? Is it because of the economy? Like, and I did notice too at the hotel that there were a lot of people outside the hotel. This is something I've been noticing often in San Diego whenever I'm staying at hotels. There are people, this one, it didn't have that. There weren't people camped, but I do feel like there are people who kind of camp out in their cars in some hotel parking lots. I don't know if it's because, like, check-in time is, like, at 3 o'clock, and so they're there just, like, hanging out. But this is, like, morning. Like, by 9 something in the morning, there were people already, like, outside with their little coolers and whatever, just mingling around, smoking, just, like, hanging out outside. It wasn't a lot of people, and they might have been people just from the hotel that were lodging there. But there were other hotels I went to where there were homeless people kind of camped across the street, and then I have noticed a lot of campers all around certain times, and yeah, just stuff like that where I'm like, something's weird. But yeah, that was the most recent experience where something like that happened, and I usually do kind of tune into those experiences, but because I wasn't waiting for anything, that's usually the kind of experience that would happen if I was like waiting outside for my Uber. I wasn't waiting for the Uber had dropped me off and I was just putting my bag away. But I have experiences like that all the time where people approach me, they start talking to me, and it's almost never, I don't think I recall any creepy times or any times where I was ever uncomfortable, and it's always just in passing. It's always just kind of just like, okay, like, you know, we're interacting for this reason or whatever, and like, I don't know if I'm supposed to have a role in it, if the other person's supposed to have a role in my life. A lot of times I don't even pay attention to the conversation or the situation that's going on. But almost every time I go out, you know, it happens. And I don't know why people approach me. I don't know why people are friendly to talk to me. It's probably because I'm not on my phone and I'm, you know, usually just waiting. That's another thing about me that people probably don't really like, is like, I usually don't have my phone volume on, and so, you know, I'll sometimes be, you know, phone in my pocket, waiting outside a place. People are trying to call or text me, and I'm just like, well, you said you're parking and I'll be outside. Like, sometimes I'm like, it doesn't need much more of an explanation than that. And I don't like to be like, I don't know, for me it's really hard to be like coordinating with multiple people. Like, when I go out, I just like to just go out, enjoy my time, not be like party planning while I'm like trying to enjoy my time. I like to just enjoy my time. So I do kind of not just like sit on my phone like checking emails and stuff like that when I'm waiting for someone. I'm like, no, I'm finally free of this, and I'm usually just focused on what I'm doing, usually, unless I'm waiting like really long or something. But I'm usually just like on my phone, talking, and, you know, we're getting along or whatever. And but yeah, if I'm not on my phone, if I'm not, you know, sorry, I didn't mean to say I'm on my phone talking. I meant to say, like, unless I'm kind of on my phone, like, answering somebody's call because we're meeting or something and they're trying to get, like, some kind of update to me, like, usually I'm honestly just not, like, nothing's really going on. Like, usually we're not, dude, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, honestly. Like, just nothing's really happening. Like, I don't really know how else to explain it. Like, usually I'm just, like, cool with things. I'm just kind of chilling, and that's just that, you know? But maybe that's why people approach me, because I'm not like glued to my phone or have my earbuds. Sometimes I have my earbuds in, but I don't usually have my earbuds in. And then people just kind of like approach me like almost all the time, and it's all different types of people. Like, I never really mind it. Like, I'm never really like put off by them or anything. I'm never like, when I see people coming up, I'm not like shying away or anything. But I don't know what it is that people come to try to talk to me. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not like doing anything. I don't look like some kind of a supermodel. I think I look kind of between a lot of everything, like, you know, like gender clothing wise, kind of like, you know, I'm not like super in shape and like fit. I'm not like ultra overweight. I'm not super thin or like really ripped or anything. Maybe I just seem like a friendly person who just is willing to engage, and that's the truth. Like, usually I'm like, dude, you're not really bothering me. I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm literally not doing anything. But I just always wonder why, you know, and people usually say something that's usually got some depth to it. Like that guy talking about how him and his mom were like transitioning out of where they were living. He didn't say much about it, but like, just for someone to tell you that that's why they're there at the hotel, I mean, that's kind of like, wow, okay, like, and it kind of got me curious to like, maybe there are a lot of people transitioning. That's why I'm seeing this whole different changed landscape. Like, when I go to hotels with people just like hanging out, and like, you can tell it's not like a group of people who all came together. It's like people are like banding together at hotels, like creating like little communities. There are people who can't get into hotels, who are homeless, that are just camping out nearby the hotels. I don't know why, but maybe they do it because I don't know why they do it. Yeah, this hotel, yeah, there were people always just kind of hanging out outside with little coolers and with their dogs and stuff, and I was just wondering, do they have rooms or do they just hang out here in the daytime? Because it's just a chill place where you can park and there's shade and you can just hang out. I mean, there's no bathroom in the lobby, nothing like that. So I was just, but there was like an Arco right down the street, so I don't really know. But yeah, the last hotel I stayed in, the one in Chula Vista, I didn't notice anything like that. The one I stayed in before, the Days Inn, that one had what I assumed was a bus stop, but I could be wrong. But there was a place right beside it by the freeway, where there were people that would just like congregate outside there. In July, when I went to San Diego for Black Pride, there was no, this was in June. In June, when I went to San Diego for Black Pride, that's the hotel in Old Town I stayed in, where there were people camped out across the street. I know that area had a lot of homelessness programs where they would, they let the homeless stay in the hotels for over a year. And so, while those people were staying in the hotels for over 1 year, they were basically getting, I don't know, they got kicked out eventually, because the programs ended, the program's funding ended for those kind of companies, unfortunately. And so all those people left. They all left. But some of them might have come back to camp outside. I don't know if that's the same people or if it's just other people. I really just have no idea why they would be camped out across the street from a hotel. But I am noticing hotels becoming just like any other type of living environment, where people kind of stay there and have communities there, the people who are also staying in hotels. And so, yeah, but that wasn't an isolated experience, having some random stranger come up to talk to me. It happens all the time. I don't know why. Even when I was a little kid, it would happen. There are plenty of experiences that I got when I was a little kid where, I did a lot of volunteering and stuff because I was connected to church, and like there were a lot of people who would just come up and start talking about like God only knows what. They'd just be like talking about stuff. We'd be at a park, like maybe serving, sandwiches to the homeless or something, and then I'd get in some like deep conversation with like some random homeless person. But like it was just always interesting to me. Like, I don't know, like maybe people get the impression that I'm not really likely to not talk to them. I don't know how I give that impression or what I do, but there's definitely something going on. I don't know what it is though. But I do notice people though. Like I mentioned, like even when the Uber dropped me off and I like walked over to my car, I guess I kind of vaguely noticed that guy. Like I didn't like notice him, but I think I vaguely noticed him. I don't know what pants he was wearing, but I know he had a brown shirt on, like a polo, but it wasn't like, it was like a brown polo shirt. He wasn't like a bad looking person. Like he was kind of like, I could tell that people would find him attractive. Not like super like model attractive, but like they would find him attractive. Like if he was somebody I knew and I had friends who were looking for guys who were like not unattractive, he would be somebody that I would be like, oh, like, yeah, I know this person who's good looking to your, like up to good standards, so good looking. Like he's in that category. I had no interest in him. But I don't know, like it's just, and I saw him the next morning. He was outside. Like I saw him outside hanging out with the other people that I saw the other days that were hanging out outside with their puppies and stuff. So I really just don't know. Like I don't know. Like to me it's all just like interesting, but that's the best way I can describe any kind of similar situation to like how I reacted to that green thing. Was just kind of like I was just kind of tuned into that's what it was, and so I knew that's what it was. Kind of almost similarly to how I kind of just like tune into people that I don't really know. It was like I'm not like scared, I'm not like afraid or anything. I'm usually just like, okay, here comes a person that's like talking to me, and this is just what it is. And I, oh look, my car's here, or my Uber's here, all my friends here, I gotta go, like talking to you kind of thing. It happens at concerts, it happens everywhere. Like almost everywhere I go, I'm just like talking to random people, and it's not me. Like I said, I don't usually engage people in conversation. I'm not like making eye contact from across the room or whatever. I'm just sitting there observing the environment. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's what it is, but people tend to just naturally just be friendly to me and just want to tell me whatever, and that's fine. But I don't know if there's a sense related to that. That's not something that I would say, oh, like I'm sensing something, or like this experience is actually this thing happening. Like that is not what that's not really what I think is happening. I don't really know, but okay, so I guess with that, that's kind of all I really have to say, and I'm gonna think of more stories, but for now, thanks for listening.